To people who have been following this whole Brexit saga, especially at a local level, one of the things that you will have heard continuously, especially during the referendum and the post-referendum, even last election, was that there was a massive carrot dangled right in front of Labour MPs to get them to vote for the withdrawal deal. And that was the New Town Development Fund, I think it was called, or branded as. And of course, this was, as with many of these, shall we say, invisible carrots, were the many of the things that the Conservatives and especially the Brexiteers offered groups, industries to say, oh, don't worry, you get all this money from the EU, don't worry, we'll replace it with our own similar fund. And of course, you know why there's a silence there if you've been following this. If not, that reason is because all these funds that we've been getting from the EU have not been replaced. There is no plan to replace them. There is no future plans to replace them. There is no plan to replace all this stuff we're about to lose. Keyword plan, because as usual with Brexit, there is no plans. It's just a wing it, fly by night, but we are working from a plan. However, we're not going to show it to you because we don't want people to realise that's the true aim. So, one of the big things was the councils. Councils, because of austerity, are losing thousands of pounds, which led to job cuts and service reductions. And of course, people are fuming about this, and it's left local councils to bear the brunt of much of the anger that people have faced, when it's not. It has been the Tory government and their austerity-driven agenda that has done this to lots of these areas. And of course, the areas hardest hit by austerity and these measures were also the ones that most voted for Brexit. And of course, during Brexit, there was a continuous theme that the Brexiteers sang of, don't worry, we'll help these areas. And of course, Boris Johnson's recently gone on an offensive to try and re-still that that's what they're going to do. And of course, all this money that the Conservatives are funneling in doesn't even begin to replace the amount of money these councils have lost. And what is worse, a lot of these councils are going to end up bankrupt. It's as simple as that. A lot of these councils had to rely on EU funding to fill these gaps that was left by austerity. And now, there's no EU funding next year. It is dried up completely. And of course, these councils are going, where's this money you promised us? Of course, it's not going to materialise at all. And of course, today's news story covers exactly that. This is from the North East Bylines, and it is the bitter irony for the North East of the EU's budget deal success. On Thursday, marathon talks between Europe's political leaders finally concluded with a deal reached on the EU's recovery plan. Days and nights of negotiations saw the original Commission's proposals for an ambitious EU plan of massive investment to address the COVID-19 economic crisis and direct investment into Europe's Green Deal, and it whittled down by frugal governments. Despite this, the EU's recovery plan and mutual financial framework for 2021 to 27, i.e. the EU budget, represented a financial firepower of over 1.8 trillion euros of investment, 30% of which is earmarked for climate action. The deal reached between governments will now pass the European Parliament, where MEPs from 6 of the political groups, more than a necessary majority, have withheld their agreement until some of the ambition is returned to the package. Despite the claims of prominent Brexiteers, the EU has neither failed to reach a budget agreement without the UK, nor are these decisions taken by technocrats, but the elected politicians representing the 27 member states. On the same day, it was revealed that the UK press that the Tory government's own town funds is being used as a political campaigning slush fund for Tory key seats and marginals. The town fund was originally set up in 2019 to help regenerate towns that had suffered from decline of the UK high street and those that had been, quote, left behind. But, unofficially, it was seen as a sweetener to encourage Labour MPs to vote for the Tories' Brexit deal. The revelations this week that these funds are not targeting the most deprived areas of the country exposed another of the Brexiteers' promise made by the Leave campaign, that rather than sending the infamous £350 a week to Brussels, we would be able to spend it on ourselves, cutting out the middleman. Unfortunately, it seems that the so-called middleman was a guarantor that the funds went to the places that needed them the most, rather than the places that the Tories needed the most. The bitter irony for the North East is that had we still been inside the EU, we would have likely have been one of the net recipients of the new EU budget framework. It is worth remembering that EU funds are allocated not on the basis of need and not on political basis, but tragically, after years of austerity, the North East would be eligible for more than in the last budget period. In January this year, the Conference of Peripheral Maritime Regions and Property Funds presented an analysis on the cohesion of policy funds that the UK regions would be entitled to if it were not for Brexit. According to the analysis, if the UK remained in the European Union, it would be entitled to over 13 billion of regional development funding under the cohesion policy for 2021 all right up to 27. This estimate represents a significant increase compared to the UK allocation of that current period of 2014 to 2020. With less than 6 months before the end of the transition period, it remains unclear what the UK government will propose as a replacement for the EU regional structural investment funds. Previous manifestos promised a shared prosperity fund, but little detail has actually emerged on this, on its form, size, or eligibility criteria. The experience of the Towns Fund is cautionary. Moreover, in the context of the economic crisis sparked by the COVID-19 pandemic, these regional investment funds will be a lifeline for our local communities, businesses, just as the Cornwall County Council has threatened to sue the government for its loss of EU funding. Isn't it time that the politicians of the North East followed suit? And I agree. I agree. It would be hilarious to start seeing like the Yorkshire county councils or like the North East county councils just go and sue the government. You said you'd replace these funds. You'd said that this new town shared prosperity fund would benefit us all. Instead, it's not. It's being used and spent for political gain rather than where it is needed most. But that was the plan all along. And it's sad, but, we told you so. We did say that if you voted for Brexit, you would be left with the most right-wing government in history. And not only has that government leaned even more far right, we now actually have the most hard-right government in our history. Even more so than when David Cameron was in charge. Because you have free market fundamentalists in charge. And the problem with these free market fundamentalists is it's their own idea that if you're not succeeding, then you don't deserve any money. So if your town is failing and is one of these left behind areas, Tories aren't going to give you any money because under their free market ideology, you don't deserve it. And the response from shall we say, Tory supporters and the Tories themselves very often, oh, move. Well, the problem is, for most of these people in those areas, they can't afford that. It's just an economic impossibility. So they're left stuck in that town. And then, of course, you've got to talk about, well, what about transport? They might not own their own car. They might, in Cornwall, the transport around Cornwall, any resident will tell you, is just god awful. They lost their train lines years ago. I think there's only like one train line left now in Cornwall, but there you go. It's absolutely insane. But this is what Brexit really means. It was all talk about let's everyone come together. Everyone, will get this money. We'll leave no one behind. In the most ironic of twists, it was the EU that was helping these towns more than anything, more than any Brexiteer will ever help any of these left behind towns. The EU has done far more to help them. And a lot of people are going to learn, because the Brexiteers drove a lot of anger in these places. And in a way, that's going to be a massive backfire on especially the Tories and a lot of these Brexiteers. Because they made promises that they cannot cash. And it's only a matter of time. It really, really is. And a lot of these people who they tracked down recently, one of the people from the north that had been in like Boris Johnson's election videos about how he was voting Tory for the first time, and they recently talked to him. Oh, do you think Boris's first year has gone? And he pretty much seems to think everything's going a-okay. I have huge questions about that guy, but clearly not. But we'd see how things fare in 2024, 25, when the next general election should be round about there. We'll see. We'll see, but I'll tell you now, there is going to be a lot of anger. Because it will be, 4-5 years on from Brexit by that point? These places are not going to see improvement. They are only going to see their lives be considerably even worse. And we have to worry and make sure, especially, that anger is pointed in the right direction. That it's pointed directly at the Brexiteers. As I've been saying recently, we've seen in a lot of these places the penny is starting to drop. And a lot of these, especially the Brexit supporters, are going, oh, it's because Brexit hasn't been done right. Well, we told you there was no way Brexit would succeed, and that there was no way to actually do Brexit right without committing serious economic harm to this country. And it won't be a leap. It will not be a leap to make these people come to that conclusion that actually Brexit was a colossal mistake for this country, and that promises were made to them by these people who have only profited from their decisions. But there you go. That's Brexit in a nutshell, really.